Let's go on to Michigan football here. Before we hit the field for 21, some disturbing news that came out this week. I believe USA Today was the first to report some feedback that was given to Bo Schembechler during his tenure at Michigan concerning inappropriate conduct by a Dr. Anderson there. Is there anything that you have in regards to your perspective on this, and how much accountability should go to Bo Schembechler based on what we know?
I think that, number one, Robert Anderson was a systemic problem for the Michigan Athletic Department. Football, and he didn't even do football all the years he was there, but it was just one aspect of what he did. He served the entire athletic department. In fact, he was in such good graces of the Ann Arbor community that I think he served Ann Arbor Pioneer High School athletes for physicals as well. The situation we're discussing it's different than Penn State in that the catalyst for that is an active assistant coach said he went into the shower and saw Jerry Sandusky sodomizing a child right there in real time, and then went and told Joe Paterno about it. In this case, we're dealing with reported not sodomizes or sodomies, but molestations, which are obviously their own form of heinous on top of that are decades after the case. We're also dealing with a situation about these are people that are not here to defend themselves, like Joe Paterno was, for example. I don't think there's any way to avoid some form of dinging of Bo from a legacy standpoint, even if it's just one case that he was cavalier about. And I mean, you could pawn some of it off if you wanted to and say opinions of homosexuality and things of that nature were different in the 70s and 80s than they are now. People weren't as sensitive about these issues back then. I think there's, I get why people would say that. I agree that we shouldn't harshly judge people in the past by all the standards we have today as a uniform standard. But I also don't think you can just excuse away that if there was one, fine. But I believe there's 4 cases in the report of people saying that they reported something along these lines to Bo and it went nowhere. Now, one of them did actually. One of them did get reported to Don Canham, and then it didn't go anywhere after that. So I don't think that you can singularly blame Bo here. This isn't a singular football program like it was at Penn State. This is systemic. The entire athletic department at Michigan allowed this man to run roughshod on its student athletes for decades in multiple sports. So you can almost make the argument to some extent from a policy standpoint, it's worse than Penn State because of that level of systemic behavior, even if the offense is not as egregious as what Sandusky is individually being accused of. At an institutional level, Michigan allowed this to go on for decades. I think there needs to be a full reckoning. There is exculpatory testimony in the report as well of people who say, I don't know, that's just every time we ever brought any needs to Bo, he addressed them as a player. I think there will be some level of accountability, Mark. What it will be, the reason I'm rambling to some extent is because this is all really murky and cloudy right now. I thought when I say murky and cloudy, not Robert Anderson, I mean what to do about it for people that aren't here to answer for themselves any longer. That's what's murky and cloudy. We can't call Don Canham and Bo Schembechler in to give their opinion on the matter. I liked what Austin Meek at the Ann Arbor News wrote recently, or maybe he's at The Athletic now. He wrote that let's first take care of the victims here. And then after the victims have been made as whole as you can be after something like this occurs to you, then we can have a conversation about what's the appropriate measures to take from a legacy standpoint and disciplinary standpoint after the fact. But let's put the victims first here. And I kind of like that approach. Let's do that first. Let's make let's pay restitution and reparations to the victims here. And then I think we'll have to have a conversation to some extent. I don't think you just ruin Bo's entire legacy over this, but the idea that we just act like that's not a footnote or anything to discuss in his bio at the same time, I don't agree with either. And I say that as somebody who loves and reveres Bo.
Absolutely. And for those people out there, and it's common in this social media world that want to play judge and jury and do it immediately and say, this should be done X, Y, and Z, and we should believe X, Y, and Z about these people, and this is their legacy now, and we all must agree on it. Those people are foolish.